So anyway, that is about it. So what we're going to do is have Eric talk to you about the DC-3 from his formal presentation, and then after that get into some more of the technical stuff from all the training materials. So you can see some of the materials that you would go through when you got a type rating in a heavier airplane like this one, or in a, as we said, turbojet powered airplanes always require a type rating. And he's going to tell you about some of the challenges of flying a multi-engine piston aircraft. So with that, take it away. I'll be here for AV support if you need it.
Or if I forget anything, I'm sure I have my local fact checker here too. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me. As Philip said, my name's Eric Zipkin. My day job is, well, here to talk about flying the DC-3, specifically through the lens of flying the DC-3 to Europe this past summer for the 70th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion and the 70th anniversary of the Berlin airlift. So it gives a little bit of kind of real-world example about what this airplane is, what it does, and the fact, and kind of a little bit of the history of that. It really has relevance to private pilots because it's really the kind of the granddaddy of what you are learning to do from a private pilot standpoint. And a lot of the engineering problems that aviation has kind of solved over the years were solved on the backs of the DC-3. So there's going to be a little interesting anecdotes. In an hour, I don't have enough time to go into all of it, but or even scratch the surface. But we'll talk about a few interesting things. Picture here is May of this past year, flying a formation of 10 DC-3s and 8 T-6 Texans down the Hudson River corridor. You can see the Freedom Tower there, Statue of Liberty over on the left, and that's me in the front airplane over there. So a little hero shot. How did I get here? Just a little. Philip said I had to give a little bit of background about what I do. I learned to fly at 16, aviation family. That's what we did for fun. Some people go fishing, and my dad and I, we went flying. I'm an ATP, single engine land, multi-engine C. My first flying job actually was teaching people how to fly seaplanes, so that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I typed in the DC-3 and the Citation jet. I don't, as Philip said, own and operate Tradewind Aviation. We have 25 aircraft total, the PC-12s and the CJ-3s. We have 80 pilots, and we're based in the Northeast and the Caribbean. You stole my thunder. We're based in St. Parts. And the way I came to the 70th anniversary of D-Day is my father was a World War II veteran, and kind of last, probably one of the youngest people to have a direct ancestor who was in World War II. So it's kind of near and dear to my heart, the history and really what it means to the world as we see it today. So DC-3 is known as a Dakota in probably the rest of the world. Certainly for those of you from Europe, that's what you know it as. But the DC-3 started life, DC stands for Douglas Commercial, and it was Douglas Aircraft Company was contacted by American Airlines to develop an airliner that was a little bit bigger than the DC-2, stands to reason, 2 to 3, and that would support American Airlines airline service going across the United States. It was developed under a number of kind of design parameters, most important of which, or the two most important of which, one, it's kind of a design parameter, it's an economic parameter. It had to make money given the mail subsidies or the airline subsidies of the day in the 1930s. Airline service as we know it today, the airline industry as we know it today, owes itself to the United States Postal Service. The Postal Service was how airlines could develop it. And the DC-3 was the first airplane where that the airlines could not only make money from the Postal Service subsidies, but by carrying passengers. So it was bleeding edge technology in 1935. The other thing is it was one of the first airplanes that was truly able to climb and fly on one engine. Previously, there were many airplanes that had more than one engines. In some cases, you see some of these old pictures of 8 or 12 engines in the case of some of the Caprionis. But most of those airplanes would not fly with an engine inoperative. The engine, the poorly functioning engine, or the malfunctioning engine, was just more of a drag on the aircraft. So it's one of the first airplanes to be able to do that. And those were the kind of the two major design parameters of the airplane. And it was extraordinarily successful. In the 1930s, it formed the backbone of the airline industry as it was developing before World War II. Give you an idea of the size of the airplane. It's a 95-foot wingspan, which is comparatively small compared to an airliner. It's huge when it comes to getting into a Cirrus or 172 or something that you might be doing basic training in. It has a approximately 30,000 pound gross weight, which is about 10x of what your Cessna 172 is. Cruises around 140 knots, and it only requires about 2,000 feet of runway. And this is an important thing. It speaks to the history of the aircraft and what the aircraft was designed to do. Before World War II, there were very few airports the way that we know them today. Most areas that accepted aircraft were actually fields, converted fields, and they were rough and they were short. So you needed an airplane that could be able to go in and out of a comparatively short field. It's a thirsty beast. Burns about 100 gallons per hour of avgas. Does anybody know what avgas costs these days over at Hanscom?
$5. 6.
Right. About 6. Actually, I think a little bit more than 6 when I flew up this morning. So that's $600 an hour just in gas, and also 1 to 2 gallons per hour of oil. Again, the important thing to understand about the DC-3 and the Dakota is that it was the leading technology of its day. What were we doing? What was the mission? What was the mission of the aircraft back in the 1940s, and also what was our mission going forward? The mission in the 1930s was for the aircraft to make airlines profitable and sustainable. That rapidly changed as the war started. The aircraft was the best, most efficient transport aircraft out there, and it was immediately pressed into service to support the war effort. So before the war, there were approximately 800 DC-3s existent in the world. By the end of the war, there were 15,000. It was the technology that was there, that was available, and supported pretty much every theater of the Allies. And most famously is the Normandy landing, the landing on the Normandy beaches. After the war, the DC-3 supported, or the Dakota supported the Berlin airlift, which was the largest, to this date, still the largest civilian humanitarian airlift ever. And it was supported and fed the city of Berlin for 19 months. So we flew this airplane, and this is there was the mission that the airplane fulfilled in the 1940s, and it also this mission that we did over the summer was to commemorate